There are
Ma'am,
moments in a
you need to come
person's
with me.
life that arrive
Let
without
go of
warning
me!
and
This is
leave
a
without
mistake.
asking permission.
Sir, step
Moments
back.
that rearrange something quiet and fundamental inside you, the way a single photograph can suddenly make sense of an entire year. I didn't go looking for one of those moments. I was just trying to get my daughter through the airport. It was the kind of travel day that grinds you down before it starts. Terminal B of Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson, 6:40 in the morning, the air thick with recycled tension and the smell of fast food that has no business being eaten before sunrise. My name is Marcus. I'm 34 years old, and I've been raising my daughter Celia alone since she was 2. She's 7 now, which means 5 years of figuring it out as I go, school pickups and nightmares and learning to braid hair from YouTube tutorials at midnight. 5 years of being both parents at once and never quite feeling like I was enough of either. Celia had her backpack shaped like a turtle, her noise-canceling headphones around her neck, and a stuffed rabbit named Gerald tucked under her arm. She was holding my hand and watching everything with the wide, cataloging eyes she gets in new places. She doesn't miss anything, my kid. Never has. We were flying to see my mother in Phoenix, Celia's grandmother, who had been asking for months and whose voice on the phone had started carrying that particular note that makes your chest tighten, the one that says come soon, I mean it. So we were going. First flight of Celia's life, which meant I was managing my own quiet anxiety about turbulence and gate changes while also managing hers about the loud machines and the strangers and the unpredictability that comes with being 7 in an overwhelming world. We made it through security. We found our gate. I got Celia settled in a chair with Gerald and a cup of apple juice, and I went to stand in line for coffee because if I didn't have coffee I was not going to be any good to anyone. The line was long. I kept my eyes on Celia. She was 12 feet away, visible, sitting exactly where I'd left her. But the terminal was filling up fast, and by the time I reached the counter and turned back around, the space between us had filled with people and rolling suitcases and a cluster of travelers who had appeared from nowhere. I couldn't see her. 10 seconds. That's how long it took for my heart to do what every parent's heart does in that situation, drop completely out of my body. I grabbed my coffee without looking and moved fast, cutting through the crowd, saying excuse me in a voice that was far too controlled for what I was feeling. And then I stopped. Celia was still in her seat. She was fine. She was safe. But she wasn't alone. There was a woman sitting beside her, older, maybe late 60s, silver-haired, wearing a gray cardigan and reading glasses pushed up onto her forehead. She was leaning slightly toward Celia with an expression of complete, unhurried attention, and Celia was talking. Not the careful, guarded talking she does with strangers she doesn't trust. The real kind. The animated, hands-moving kind that she usually saves for people she loves. I walked over. The woman looked up. Before I could say a word, a security officer appeared at my elbow, young guy, efficient, doing his job. He looked between me and Celia and said, politely but directly, "Sir, do you know this child?" I looked at him. "She's my daughter." He nodded once, pen moving toward his notepad. Standard protocol. A man approaching a child in an airport. I understood it. I didn't resent it. I reached for my wallet to show ID. And then the woman in the gray cardigan spoke. "She's with me," she said. Calm as still water. Certain as anything. She said it the way you say something that has always been true. I looked at her. She looked at me with steady eyes and the faintest smile, and in that smile was something I couldn't immediately name. It wasn't pity. It wasn't performance. It was something more deliberate. The officer glanced between us, accepted my ID, confirmed what needed confirming, and moved on. I sat down in the empty seat on Celia's other side. Celia immediately leaned against my arm and said, "Dad, this is Barbara. She's been to Phoenix 47 times. 46, Barbara said, with the warmth of someone who doesn't mind being corrected by a 7-year-old. I looked at this woman, this stranger who had just claimed my daughter as her own in front of a security officer without hesitating, without explaining, without asking anything in return. "Thank you," I said. It came out smaller than I meant it. She waved her hand in that specific way that older women sometimes do, the gesture that means don't make a thing of it and somehow makes it more of a thing. We sat together for the next hour while our flight was delayed, then delayed again. Celia fell asleep against my shoulder with Gerald's ears in her fist. Barbara and I talked the way people talk when they're tired and far from home and the usual social armor hasn't quite been put on yet, honestly, without performance. She told me she had a son. Had. Past tense, the way she said it making clear she didn't want me to ask and I didn't. She said she flew to Phoenix every few months to volunteer at a literacy center, teaching reading to adults who'd never had the chance to learn as children. She said she'd started because she needed somewhere to put herself after she lost him, and that she'd stayed because it turned out that helping people read for the first time did something to you that nothing else quite replicated. The look on a grown person's face, she said, when a page of words finally became a page of meaning, she said she'd given up trying to describe it adequately. I told her about Celia. About the YouTube tutorials and the school pickups and the way Celia sometimes asked questions about her mother that I answered as truthfully as I could and hoped was enough. I told her about my own mother in Phoenix, the tightening in her voice, the trip I should have taken sooner. Barbara listened the way very few people listen, not waiting for her turn, not assembling her response while I was still speaking. Just receiving it. All of it. When our gate finally opened and they called our boarding group, Barbara stood and smoothed her cardigan. Celia woke up and hugged her without being asked, the way children hug people they have quietly decided matter. Barbara held on for a moment with her eyes closed. She pressed something into my hand as we parted. A folded piece of paper. I opened it on the jetway. It was her name and phone number, and below it, in careful handwriting, for when Celia needs a grandmother in Atlanta. Asterisk. I had to stop walking. The man behind me said something impatient and I apologized and kept moving, but I was somewhere else entirely. Here is what I know now that I didn't know at the start of that Tuesday, that the people who save us rarely arrive in the ways we imagine. They arrive in gray cardigans in crowded airports. They sit beside our children while we're 12 feet away and panicking. They claim us, calmly, without ceremony, without needing to know our whole story first. They speak 2 words, she's with me, and mean something so much larger than the moment requires. And somewhere in the space those 2 words create, we remember that we are not doing this alone. None of us are. We never were.